Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who may not know, I'm Dr. Robbie Fletcher, and as of July 1, I've officially assumed the role of Kentucky Commissioner of Education. Also, I've watched this webinar numerous times while sitting in the Lawrence County School Superintendent seat, where I had a very strong team who's always all in for whatever the superintendent put on the agenda for the week. So I'm so appreciative of the staff at Lawrence County. But also, too, I've been blessed to work alongside with many of you as part of LSAC, SAC, accountability committees, CASA, CAS groups, and many other items. And I want to thank you to each person that's a part of this webcast, each superintendent for your support, but more importantly, thank you for what you do for the students of the Commonwealth each and every day. Next, before I talk about the agenda, like to say thank you to Dr. Robin Kinney. Dr. Kinney and the staff of the Kentucky Department of Education has been a phenomenal to me in this transition portion. Matter of fact, I think Dr. Kinney provided more than just stability in her role as interim. She built relationships with members of the state legislature and worked with the Kentucky Board of Education towards the vision of vibrant learning for all students, innovation, and particularly the areas of accountability and collaboration with community members. Again, Dr. Kinney and the staff here have gone over and above to help with the transition into the role of commissioner. And again, thank you to each person here at Sower Building and also to Dr. Kinney. Also, I'm very excited to serve the students and staff members of our great Commonwealth alongside such a great team here at KDE and also alongside each of you as superintendents. So again, I look forward to what the future holds for each of us. And as part of my new role, I'll be doing my best to promote your school districts. I've added a social media account that is Commissioner Fletcher at all_NKY, and it's at all_N_KY. If your district has an X or /Twitter account, please have the person responsible to follow my account, and I'll do the same with your district accounts. Again, I like to promote students. I like to promote districts, and this is my personal account, so this is my opportunity to connect with your school districts, and I would appreciate it if you'd follow my social media account. Now, also with this in mind, if you followed me much on social media, you know that in my former role as superintendent, I love to promote and I love to highlight kids. So while I'm the Commissioner of Education, I am also the superintendent for the Kentucky School for the Deaf and the Kentucky School for the Blind. So I'm going to have an opportunity here shortly to highlight a student. Before we do that, if we could do next slide, please. I'm sorry, as far as the agenda, if we could. Just an overview of the agenda. We'll have Jennifer again here shortly as the KDE Director of Communications. We also have an update on our SRO funding opportunities. Matt Ross will be giving that update here shortly. And then also, too, something that if you've listened to any talk from Commissioner Fletcher, accountability and assessment is key. And where do we go from here? We'd really love to have an accountability system that we all believe in, that impacts instruction, and also reflects the individuality of our districts. So we do have an update of 2 prototypes, and we'll talk more about that with Dr. Jennifer Stafford. Then also, too, we will talk about the timeline. We still have data from from the past year, from 2023, 2024, and Jennifer Stafford will be giving us the timeline for that now. Some good news, it looks like that'll be completed about a month early. So we'll be happy to have that. And we'll finish up with our Purple Star schools, and that's Brigadier General retired Stephen P. Bullard with the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. Then, of course, we'll close up with some questions and answers from KDE leadership. So next slide, please. Thank you. As I said, I love to highlight students. So as superintendent of the Kentucky School for the Blind, it is an honor to highlight Krishna Malhotra. He's a 13-year-old going into the 7th grade. At the Kentucky School for the Blind and was among the top 50 students selected to participate in the 2024 Braille Challenge Finals. The event was hosted in Los Angeles and from June 21st to 23rd and included competitors from across the U.S., Canada, and the United Kingdom. Students were graded on charts, graphs, proofreading, reading comprehension, speed and accuracy, and spelling. So congratulations to Krishna. And if you'd like to learn more, there is an article there that's highlighted in the Kentucky Teacher. Next slide, please. Also, too, we had nearly 1,500 educators attend the Kentucky Reads to Succeed Summer Conference. I've talked to several people about this conference. It seems to have gone over very well. It was hosted by the KDE's Office of Teaching and Learning on June 20th, and the conference was designed for educators to learn more about evidence-based literacy practices for meeting the diverse needs of student readers. And then sessions were designed for elementary and secondary educators and administrators and focused on evidence-based instruction, with our goal is to make sure this event is an annual conference. Again, thank you to so many who have given us the positive feedback. We appreciate that, and we look forward to this event being an annual event as we move forward. Next slide, please. And then my last update, one of the things that at the Office of Communications here, we are beginning to start some campaigns, if you will. We want to highlight and also to promote school districts. We want to promote the profession. We also want to do campaigns that highlight some of the issues that we need to address. And one of our first ones that has pushed our communications team, and they've done a great job so far, is on chronic absenteeism. And then beginning in August, we'll be kicking off a campaign to raise awareness about chronic absenteeism. Then in August and again in January, KDE will be running billboards and ads on the radio, streaming, and TV to highlight what our students miss when they're not in school. So look forward to some of these billboards and even some of the commercials that'll have empty seats with students in the background saying, "We missed you." Whether it be, "We missed you at the game," "We missed you in band." My favorite so far has been two little ladies at the cafeteria table that will say, "We missed you at lunch." So our chronic absenteeism webpage is also being updated to provide you with more tools and ideas on how to combat chronic absenteeism. Also want to thank the good people of Anderson County. We've done some videos there. They've been great to work with. Superintendent Sheila Mitchell and her team has been phenomenal and been very complimentary of the KDE staff, and we're very thankful for that. If you'd like for more information, please email Florence Chang in KDE's Division of Student Success. Next slide, please. That finishes up my portion of this. I will kind of chime in maybe later on, but I'll turn it over to our Director of Communications, Ms. Jennifer Ginn.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to keep it short this month for you. Applications are being sought for the Commissioners Teachers Advisory Council. That's open until August 30th. The TAC, as hearers call it, is comprised of teacher leaders from across Commonwealth who contribute crucial, diverse perspectives about important issues in schools to the Commissioner of Education. If you've heard us talk, you know that we often refer back to our advisory councils, that we really do value their opinion, and we ask a lot of questions before things are done in the agency, just so we know how this is going to impact people in the classrooms and schools. The TAC members serve a 3-year term, but the meetings do occur during the school day. So it's important to know before a teacher applies whether their supervisor, their principal, whether you as their superintendent, is going to allow them to take that time to provide us feedback. You'll see in your slides, which I believe you got earlier today, is the link to the membership. If you have questions, email Stacy Noah. If you know of anybody in your district who you think would be a good fit for this, who would provide a good perspective, please send them the information. Please encourage them to apply. Next slide. All right, we have 11 new members selected for the Commissioner's Student Advisory Council, and I know you've heard us talk about this. We really do value the input we get from our students. We've been having meetings with them for quite a few years. So we had, students provide feedback on critical issues impacting students in schools. They have worked on everything from student mental health to school safety. They provide feedback on a lot of issues for us. They meet regularly with the commissioner. I believe this year we're meeting every 2 months, because they were meeting monthly, but we realized that took the students out of the classroom a little more often than we wanted. So we're switching it to every 2 months. You can see the new members. I am not going to try to attempt to pronounce all their names, because I am sure I would mess that up. But we have students from Fayette County, Ashland Independent, Fort Thomas Independent, Kentucky School for the Deaf, Jefferson County, Mayfield Independent, Hardin County, Owensboro Independent, Boyle County, Danville Independent, and there's another Owensboro Independent. So we would just like to welcome all of them and thank you for allowing them to devote that time to providing input for us. Next slide, please. And speaking of what our students are doing, we have also named Educators Rising Kentucky has named 6 students as state officers for the 24-25 year. This is a career technical student organization, and it's for our aspiring educators. So here at KDE, we're always happy to have more students involved. The state officers include President Ashlyn Johnson of Marion Seymour Middle School in Jefferson County, President-elect Hunter Carr, Graves County High School, Co-Director of Membership Aubrey Stamper, Graves County, Co-Director of Membership Felina Ash, Bullitt Central High School, Director of Communications, which, you know, I have a little preference for. Lily Russell, who's with the Ignite Institute, and Director of Outreach and Service, McKinley Hurd, South Warren High School, WKU Young Male Leadership Academy. So thank you for the support you give to your students, you give to Educators Rising Kentucky. We're always trying to promote the idea of people becoming educators, because I know we always need great educators in the classrooms. So next slide, please. All right, we are up to Associate Commissioner Matt Ross talking about School Resource Officer funding opportunities.
Thank you, Jennifer. The General Assembly, we can advance the next slide, please. The General Assembly in House Bill 6, the budget for the next 2 years, provided some funding for to offset the cost for SROs for districts. So in order to be eligible, you have to have at least one on-site full-time certified school resource officer, and we will provide up to $20,000 for each campus that employs at least one on-site full-time certified school resource officer. So in order to apply, you just need to fill out a intent to participate. There's a link here that's also been in each Monday message and will continue to run through the month of July. Those applications or completed intent to participate forms need to be completed by July, the end of July. And so based on that population, Katie will then be able to determine amounts, but the reimbursement is for $20,000 for each campus that employs an eligible SRO. So I think that's basically it, Jennifer.
Before Jennifer gets started, just one comment there, and I want superintendents to be very aware of, and Matt did a great job of this, but pointing out that the budget language deals with an SRO per campus. So keep that in mind as you move forward. It's per campus. I think even the original school safety bill talked about having SROs per campus. So again, that is not per school. That is per campus. So if you look at the funding, as we follow through with what the directives from the state legislature is, that I think it's up to $20,000 per campus. So please understand that as you move forward. Again, but we're following I think the budget bill language and dispersing that. And of course, Associate Commissioner Ross did a great job of letting you know the process for applying for that funding. Also, next, before we get into before I turn it over to Dr. Stafford, I want each of you as superintendents to realize that as we move forward, one of the big things that I would like to be able to do is to have an accountability system that we all can believe in. But we are in very much of the draft phase, and you're going to see two prototypes today. Please don't see this as prototype 1 versus prototype 2. Really what you should do is when she goes through, when Dr. Stafford goes through each of these prototypes, look at prototype 1. There may be aspects of prototype 1 that you believe in, that you think should be added in, and there may be some of prototype 2 that you feel like should be a part of the final accountability model. So when you listen, please listen and think about your comments as a not versus a versus model. It's not prototype 1 versus prototype 2. It's more along the lines of there are aspects of each of prototype 1 and aspects of prototype 2 that may wind up in prototype 3. So again, you're going to have the opportunity to fill out a survey. And even if you put questions into the chat today, we're going to ask that you put those questions into the survey also so that we have all that information. We're looking for your input. So again, be very open-minded, very critical. And then 2, offer support as we go through. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stafford, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much, Dr. Stafford.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to reimagine assessment and accountability in Kentucky. As Dr. Fletcher said, there are 2 prototypes being introduced, and it's not a matter of choosing between the 2, but actually there are decision points within each of the prototypes. The journey to get to this point has been long and it spans several years. And so if we could advance to the next slide. Back in 2020, when we had the survey of educational feedback survey to the Kentucky Coalition of Advancing Education, to the work that's gone on with the laboratories of learning and the $3 million grant that we got from the state assessment initiative. It's been a long road, but each of those steps has been very critical and crucial to getting us to the place that we are today. So inspired by the Kentucky United We Learn report, a new vision for education has been emerging. One in which brings together these ideas around developing partnerships and embracing this collective responsibility for school improvement. The ideas of vibrant learning for all of our students, encouraging innovation and assessment and accountability, and then the collaboration is what the Kentucky United We Learn Council members are exploring. So their overarching goal is to launch an accountability system that is to create a prosperous Kentucky, to launch an accountability system that is useful and meaningful to all of our learners. So we have a moonshot, we've got the vision, and we're working toward that and meeting those goals. Next slide. So the United We Learn Council was brought together with around 55 members, and this is a diverse set of stakeholders that are learning together, and they are using empathy and inclusiveness to develop these prototypes. They're led by Penny Christian, who's the chair, Jim Flynn, who's the vice chair, and the KDE lead is Karen Dodd. And the council is organized into committees. And for the first year, we stayed in these committees and we worked through the different issues and content within those committees that were outlined in the Kentucky United We Learn report. In November of 2023, we moved from those committees to a more of a work group approach. So those committees were around accelerating innovation, bold new futures, and vibrant learning experiences. In November, we moved to a work group approach. And that work group approach is meant to be very short term, very focused deliverables on specific content or issues. So the current work groups that we have working now are around district support for quality, engaging communities and communicating with communities, learning with local districts, and the one that I get to facilitate is the menu of options. Next slide, please. Which leads us to our journey that we've taken towards launching that new accountability system. So we're currently in the developing the prototypes phase. As you can see here on the slide, the bottom left-hand side, the prototypes are being developed in collaboration with the menu of options work group, and that it's an iterative process. The work group had their first meeting in April and provided some great guidance and input on the first prototype. They got to see the first prototype, and it's a continuous feedback and reflection of those prototypes. So we met after that April meeting. We had 2 meetings in June on the 20th and 24th with our members who gave us a lot of crucial feedback. And the version 2.0 of the prototype documents changed pretty significantly, because the original version had 4 prototypes, and as Dr. Fletcher mentioned, there's only 2 now, because our members let us know pretty quickly the significant changes that they wanted to see. So this version 2.0 is being shared broadly for input. It's now ready. It's not finished. It's a continuous feedback, iterative process, and we're bringing in more people and more voices to this process, and getting a wider audience and broader perspectives to provide guidance on that. So the plan is to collect feedback, to continuously update the prototypes based on that feedback. And as Dr. Fletcher said, there will be updated versions of the prototypes. Then we'll move into a study phase. All along the way, we'll keep the legislative awareness. We'll move into the study phase that will where stakeholders will continue to review and refine the prototypes. And during that study phase, we'll engage with schools and districts to develop more of the details. So today, what we're going to do when we look at the prototypes, there are going to be some high-level ideas and concepts shared. But as we move through, we'll continue to refine, continue to have further details. So this collaborative journey will involve the council. They will advance alongside the Kentucky Department of Education and the Kentucky Board of Education. So our ultimate goal is to establish an approved, reimagined accountability system. So as we move to the next slide, let's turn to the prototypes. And again, these prototypes are meant to illustrate just different and unique approaches that we could take in any future assessment or accountability system. And again, they're not defined. They're just a set of approaches that we can look at and inform the conversation. And it's something that serves as a starting point for our conversation to allow us to analyze the differences that we can think about for a possible future. And it really allows us to think about our own thoughts as we look at and analyze the different approaches, to be able to reflect on within ourselves to say what we like and what we don't like so much. And it's a way that we can think about what could be a possibility for the future. So prototype 1 on the next slide, the strategy that we took for it was building an accreditation style system into the state accountability system. and incorporating this transparency and more flexibility of evidence being brought into the accountability system. So with an accreditation style system, the schools and districts would engage in evidence collecting and relative to some quality, school quality domains. And the domains are here on the slide for us. Now, those may be the right domains, and you may agree with those or not. And we're going to look to you for your reflection and feedback on if those are the right domains. So in this accreditation style process, the idea is to bring an external evaluator to review the evidence that schools or districts collect. Now, schools and districts would have flexibility on what evidence that they would provide to meet those domains. And the schools would have ratings on a feedback from the external evaluator based on rubrics relative to each of those quality domains. So an external evaluator would work with the local board of education and district and school leaders as they collect and set goals based on that evidence that they would provide, and create then school improvement strategies. It would allow for a regular intervals of collection, and the schools would be able to submit and resubmit evidence. And then the suggestion here would be that evidence is collected every 3 years. And then Kentucky would still need to meet federal requirements. So this prototype then would reduce accountability requirements in that federal to the bare minimum, which would be TSI and ATSI, or targeted support and improvement, and additional targeted support improvement, and then continuous support and improvement, and then another category. So also in this prototype one would eliminate those school colors and those on those ratings of those school colors. Next slide brings about a choice point, whether to continue with the change component that is in our current accountability system or to bring in individual student growth. So the difference between those two, change is the difference in school performance on each of our state indicators from one year to the next. Whereas individual student growth would be on individual student growth on reading and math and how they perform from one year to the next. So the difference is in change, is school performance, and in student growth, it's that individual student performance. So the next slide. The next, also within prototype one, gives us some assessment options here. So you see in your slide that there are 3 current assessment options. The first one is a through course model for reading and math within an academic year, where the school would provide the students a state offered through course model that the students could take on an interval and get formative, instructional, relevant feedback that teachers can use immediately and would impact then their instruction and support. This idea is to replace that locally funded interim assessments that and shift that responsibility and that cost to the state, and have a comprehensive, cohesive system of interim assessments that would line up and with our reduced set of summative assessments. State assessments in science and social studies and writing would remain the same. The option 1.2b, that second assessment option, is around a competency-based approach that includes these authentic demonstrations of knowledge and skills, that incorporates not only the content of our Kentucky academic standards, but also the skills within those local portraits of a learner. The math and reading and science would include some combination of a shortened standardized assessment along with those authentic demonstrations of performance tasks. Now, this innovative assessment approach would need some waivers and some flexibility from the U.S. Department of Education. So we would need some flexibility from the U.S. Department of Education, and we would need some schools that would actually pilot it so that we could learn from it and from a pilot and then help bring it statewide. The last option that we have here, there are other options that the menu of options work group have considered, but the last option here is to reduce the number of assessments used to determine academic proficiency to meet the bare minimum of the federal requirements, and that is for reading, math, and science only. So social studies and writing would then shift to the local to be used for instructional purposes. And then we could also incorporate either the first two options into that third assessment option. If we move to the next slide, then we move on to prototype 2, which brings into the accountability system a vibrant learning experiences. So in that vibrant learning experiences, we have the option of bringing in that in a couple of different ways or a couple of different approaches. The first option would incorporate those more local evidence of vibrancy within the federal framework. And because the requirements and regulations on federal accountability, it's a bit more constrained than the second option. There would be a limited number of options that we could offer, and these options would came from the systems work group that started in November, that includes those capstone projects and other vibrant learning experiences. We could also, if we went this direction, we could have some other locally approved processes that we would have to submit for federal approval. Now, the idea here is that there would be flexibility on those vibrant learning experiences in the districts, but the rubrics would be the same statewide, and everyone would use the same rubric within that. The second option here is to incorporate the vibrant learning experiences into our state accountability system, where this would really be about processes that would be locally determined, and the percentage of our students that are participating in vibrant learning experiences would be collected and included. Now, it would be included, the evidence would be evaluated on this co-created state continuum of no evidence through exceptional evidence. Another option within this flexibility would be that the vibrant learning experiences for the schools that had those upper ratings would receive some indication on their color rating and get an improvement or advanced in a color rating. So for example, if the school had a color rating of let's say yellow in their overall, then if they had an advanced vibrant learning experience, then it would move the school up to a higher level of green or so forth along that continuum. So there's a couple of different options within those prototypes. Next slide, please. So that we all have a common definition of vibrant learning experiences, the Kentucky United We Learn Council have adopted the definition of vibrant learning experiences that includes learning that matters to students and has that they are agents of their own learning, that there are authentic, meaningful learning experiences that are culturally relevant to each of our students. So that we're all working from the same definition of vibrant learning. Next slide, please. There are other considerations within the prototype. So depending on which of the directions that we go eventually, we'll have to think about reporting and the information around the reimagined assessment and accountability and what is meaningful and a meaningful way to communicate to our stakeholders. So around those quality domains and those school evaluation pieces. So depending on the direction we go, reporting will have to be considered as well. School improvement plans, if it's in state accountability, we'll have to think through and work with the U.S. Department of Education on how the changes would affect those classifications for our schools. And then we also have to think through our resources. With any changes that happens within assessment or accountability, there could be impact on our fiscal resources as well as our human resources. So we have to think as we are contemplating and considering these different approaches that the impact that it will have on our teachers, on our administrators, and on our students as well. So a lot of considerations around each of these prototypes. Next slide, please. So the policy considerations. So the good thing about this is we're trying to think about the implementation as well as the policy at the same time. So possible impacts to federal implications. If we're going to suggest any changes to our accountability program, we're going to have to seek USED approval through our ESSA Consolidated State Plan. And if there are any changes to our assessment program, then we would also need to seek approval from USED through a peer review process. So those are lengthy processes that we have to submit evidence and information and our plans to USED for approval of those changes. As for the state, if there are statutory changes, we're going to have to work closely with our legislators here in the state. If there are regulatory changes needed based off of any statutory language changes or changes under the purview of the Board of Education, we'll have to go through those regulatory processes. And then any changes along the way, the Kentucky Department of Education would have to change our policies around those. So a lot of considerations to take into account when we're looking toward a reimagined assessment or accountability system. Next slide. So as Dr. Fletcher mentioned, we want your feedback. We have these 2 prototypes that could become a 3rd or even a 4th prototype. So we're looking for your feedback. We would have created a survey, and it will be coming to you as superintendents after this webcast. So later this afternoon, you're going to get a survey and a supporting video that explains a little bit more in depth than I went through here around those prototypes. as well as the prototype reimagined assessment and accountability in Kentucky version 2.0. So we're seeking your feedback on those prototypes and those choice points within those prototypes so that we can then take that input to the next Kentucky United We Learn convening. That is scheduled for July 29th. And along the way, over the next few weeks, we will be collecting feedback from other advisory councils. We're going to talk to the School Curriculum Assessment Accountability Council next week. We'll also be meeting with the local superintendents advisory council and other stakeholders along the way. So we're gathering this feedback in preparation for the July 29th Kentucky United We Learn convening. Once we have that meeting, we'll then possibly update to a version 3 of the document and have discussions with the Kentucky Board of Education at their August meeting. So a quick timeline, a quick turnaround, and we want your engagement and your critical feedback. So please be on the lookout for an email later this afternoon. I believe Jen Ginn is planning to send that. So look for superintendents, please look for that and complete that survey because we really value your input. Next slide. So as we are thinking about the future, we also have our current assessment and accountability system that we are preparing to release. So we have some really good news. As Dr. Fletcher mentioned, we are going to be able to release assessment and accountability results a little quicker this year. We don't have as many steps for standard setting this year that we did last year. So if we'll move to the next slide. The first assessment results we will have as far as KSA and AKSA will come out in August. This tentative reporting timeline has those two assessments being released on August 2nd. Now, our assessments from our other state assessments like ACT and Access have already been shared with the school. So around those other state assessments, these particular to the Kentucky Summative Assessment and the alternate Kentucky Summative Assessment will be released in PAN on August 2nd. We'll go into then our next quality control step of, we call that fall data review. So district assessment coordinators and our building assessment coordinators will have the opportunity to review student demographic data and update that in any way that was not corrected in the spring. They'll have the opportunity to look at the 100-day accountability as well and make any changes there to our individual students. That'll be the last time that schools are able to make individual student changes during that fall data review, because the next quality control step is our quality control day, and that's tentatively scheduled for September 19th, where DACs have the opportunity to review accountability and look for big system-wide issues. We'll go into an embargoed October 1st to our DACs and selected district staff, and then public reporting will be tentatively scheduled for October 3rd. And I'll note here for us that it is planned to be released in open house. The school report card vendor is new, and it's going to take a little bit more time to have our pretty nice school report card that's scheduled tentatively to go out later this calendar year. So our public reporting in October will be through open house, through spreadsheets. And then we have that 10-day regulatory review where is the next opportunity to make individual student changes. So let me stop there and pass it over to our next presenter.
Well, good morning, or actually good afternoon now. I'm sorry. Steve Bullard from the Kentucky Air National Guard and the U.S. Air Force, and I work in the governor's office as the executive director of the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. In this role, I basically serve as Kentucky's military ambassador. So I work with the U.S. Department of Defense, the National Guard, and all of the military components and installations in Kentucky to represent the military to Kentucky and Kentucky back to the military. And in that, the governor gives me a lot of additional duties, and things come up and he'll say, can you take this on? And absolutely, we love to do that. One of my responsibilities in this office, and it's not mine, it's the office's responsibility, is to be the state commissioner for the Military Interstate Children's Compact Commission, and I am their national compliance chair. Just finished about 4 minutes ago hosting their our bi-monthly national compliance meeting. So if you have any questions regarding military rights and obligations when for transfers or schools, mostly affects the folks around Fort Knox and Fort Campbell, we are here to help you with that. But this is a fun one. So in the year 2017, a good friend of mine in Ohio named Pete Lupiva, who works for the finance cabinet up in Columbus, he had several young children, and he went to his elementary school principal and said, hey, what can we do to kind of celebrate our military connected families and children? And they came up with the idea of doing a purple star to talk about purple, because purple is the military's version of family and jointness. The military has all kinds of colors: Air Force blue, you have Navy blue, the blood red of the Marine Corps, Army green. And so purple is all of us working together. And they like the idea. They decided to build a program around it. And then other schools in Columbus caught on and said, we like this. And before you know it, it exploded. In the state of Ohio in 2020, Department of Defense looked at this program and said, we love this and we'd like to see everybody do it. Let's promote it nationwide. So they adopted it as a Department of Defense priority to support this program. So we picked it up through the Cabinet for Health and Family Services initially because of its role to help with challenge youth in many, many ways throughout the Commonwealth, and they are a absolutely wonderful partner. Kentucky Department of Education absolutely jumped right on board, and we stood it up in the fall of 2021, and we're now approaching 100 participating schools, and we'll be over that this fall. So we also got a House Bill 469 passed this session to actually make this a formal program in the Commonwealth that's adopted by the Commonwealth, and it's under my agency, Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs, with great partners, and in many of them. We'll talk about that moving forward. Next slide, please. The what is Purple Star program? It's military connected youth. We'll talk about that real quick because we have statutorily a military connected youth is someone whose father or mother serves in the military. And I was one of those. I was a military child. I went to 7 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and fortunately only 1 high school. My 3 brothers were not so fortunate. Going on, I became a military parent. Now I'm a military grandfather. But we see it more broadly. So when I go around to schools in Kentucky, and in fact, Cabinet for Health and Family Services in their 2020 survey of students in 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grades asked, do you have a military connection? So this is someone in your family. It could be a cousin. It could be an aunt or an uncle. Do you have someone in your family you care about? Are they deployed? Is this something that you worry about? And over 40,000 responded yes. And if you go to any school in Kentucky and you ask that question, most people are going to raise their hands. You also have recruiters and National Guard and reserve children throughout the Commonwealth. So what we want schools to do, what we're asking them to do totally voluntarily is just instill a sense of connection to these students and their families. So next slide, please. So what does our program do? What we're looking for is creating a nurturing environment, and for that schools recognize they have children in their classes K through 12. We're also looking at a collegiate Purple Star School program, by the way. In 2026, we're looking at getting that funded with the Council of Post-Secondary Education. Totally different program. But we're basically just looking for schools to provide a counselor who understands their needs and how that happens, and understands what that community is like in your school. So it's pretty simple. Next slide. We know it works. So in our 90 plus schools, we survey our coordinators, and they've been great at responding, and it's helped. I'll talk a little bit more about the details of how the program works, but it's gotten a very positive response everywhere we've implemented it. And this is consistent throughout the country. We have now 43 states that have this program. And in fact, Ohio is now going to be over 600 schools shortly that participate in this, and they've been doing it well ahead of us. And so we're very thrilled, very pleased with the response we've gotten from this program. Next slide. And again, looking at just some of the statistics, it's very easy to do this program. I'll talk a bit what the details are shortly. And you can see the majority say it's easy, and a lot say that it's very easy. And I'm not going to read the slide. It's just there's been a lot of positive responses to it. And it's a fun program. It's an easy program, and it is a fun program. Next slide. And Purple Star Liaisons, that's your school counselor in any way, shape, or form who has taken the training, which we provide, and will gives you a better connection and a better awareness. And it's been a very positive response here as well. So we're proud of that. And these slides are, of course, available post-meeting as well. Next slide. Coming into how do you become a Purple Star school? There's 4 steps in basically identifying a liaison and completing the training, and then holding at least one military recognition activity. So in Kentucky, we're way ahead of the game on this, because you're already required to do a Veterans Day event. And so technically, that's your event. We would like to see you also recognize the month of the military child, which is in April. And we always do, we'll do a governor's proclamation on, the Purple Star month. And there's a Purple Up Day that Department of Defense has, and different, usually around the 15th, mid-month. And again, Purple Up being everybody coming together. So we do it throughout Department of Defense worldwide, and we ask if states are willing to do so, join in and have a Purple Up Day in your state and celebrate your month of the military child, and at least celebrate it. And if you can, do some type of an event with it, maybe team with veterans in your community. And there's a lot of good things about this. And one of the things we're finding is folks outside of the schools are asking, how do we get involved? How can we get a Purple Star for our business? Well, you could sponsor a school, help a school comply with this requirement. And we would love to see that. So we're creating a Purple Star Advocates Award for folks to do that. And I could talk forever on this. I'm not going to do that. We'll try to go through this fairly quickly. Next slide. So how do you apply? We have a website, and you submit the application. We have a very active and very enjoyable advisory board that we meet quarterly, and we also review the applications. We'll talk to the schools and help them as necessary. And we've never turned anyone down. We've always helped people get where they need to be. And the school receives then a Purple Star school designation. We do a kickoff ceremony with you, give you a Purple Star to put in your window and a banner to hang. It's a lot of fun. You can reapply every 2 years and continue the program, which we hope will be a theme. And that's been the way it's been working around the country. So again, it's very easy to do. Next slide. So here's where we have Purple Star schools in Kentucky, and we're just into our second year, or completing our second year. So I think it's 91 or 92. I can't remember offhand. We have a few all purple star districts and counties. We count them a little bit separately, and we hope to get multiple more, and we hope to continue growing the program. Again, it's a completely voluntary program. No one has to join, and if you think there's a value for your school, we certainly encourage it. Next slide. And there's a lot on this slide here for things I need to do. I can't really see my screen here, so I'm going to pull up here we go, other resources. So we are teaming with Global Game Changers, Heather French Henry's group, former Miss America, year 2020, for a Purple Star Award training book for K through 5. We have all kinds of other resources, such as lockboxes, and we've got a great partner in Four Rivers Behavioral Health Regional Prevention Center, which created the Dinner Table Project, and we kind of facilitate programs such as that. And we have multiple other materials that we do, and we work with a ton of partners to provide you resources that you can use. Next slide. And our ceremonies are so much fun. You can do any kind of ceremony. You can bring your whole school together and do a big event. And we've done those, and they've been very successful. And we've also done, small ceremonies. Get together in the school library with some of your military-connected students. Maybe invite some veterans. And we'll even do joint ceremonies with multiple schools. We did one in Christian County for many of their public schools that Governor Beshear came to. And you can do it any kind of way. You can see the banner that you can hang in your school here. We're very, very flexible, and you can scale this program any way you want to scale it, very, very small or larger. It's totally up to you. Next slide. And we have contests. This is our Purple Star T-shirt contest, and we really, you can see these are designs that you can buy T-shirts to, and a lot of the schools we go to will have purple T-shirts or other type of T-shirt designs that they use. As you grow your program, this is the type of thing we do. We provide gift certificates to the winners, and also make the opportunity available for them to have their T-shirts actually made and used. So we do other art contest type of things. We have contests every year, so a lot of fun. Some of the auxiliary things we do. Next slide. And these are some of our partners. Of course, Governor Beshear and Brittany Beshear, the Lieutenant Governor Coleman are all huge fans. The entire administration's on board with this. Brian Perry over at the Kentucky Department of Education has been a great supporter. I can't say enough for Eric Freelander and the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. And this program has grown into success in other areas, such as teaming up with Department of Defense for military child care in your neighborhood plus and other things. So there's so much. We have multiple veterans organizations, and we're creating this veterans, this Purple Star Advocate Award, and hopefully that will continue to grow even further. The Kentucky High School State Athletic Association was nice enough to let us do public service announcements at the Sweet 16 this year. And of course, we team up with the military, Fort Knox, Fort Campbell, Kentucky National Guard, Coast Guard, and so on, and a lot of great partners. And the First Lady and the Governor have great videos they've done for us as well. So all that's readily available on our website, and we certainly encourage you to use it. Next slide. So that's our website, the Kentucky purplestar.org, and a lot of great resources there. Steve Cameron with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services is our action guy, and our board members are great as well. So that's just a quick overview for you. We hope you consider it, and we'd love to continue growing this program. We'd love to have a great partnership with all our school superintendents and school districts around Kentucky, and look forward to working with you on this program.
Thank you so much, Brigadier General Bullard. I also, too, thank you for your, if I've read correctly, 33 years of service. This is an important program, but too, we want to take the opportunity to thank you if I'm correct, you served in the Air National Guard and active duty and Air Force assignments, everything from Operation Desert Shield to Iraqi Freedom to Southern Watch to Joint Force to Endeavor. So thank you so much for serving our country and serving the people here, and now serving our students directly. We appreciate that so much. Thank you, sir.
Well, we love it, and we're a big part of the community, and that's what we want to make sure that we embrace the community and the community embraces us.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you again. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, sir. As we move into, before we talk a little bit about the questions and answers, if you have any that we'll address here shortly, I do want to make a few other closing comments. One of the things that if you'll go back, you don't have to do this, Jennifer, but on the public reporting on October 3rd, one of the things that's on the timeline there that you may expect to see some things. I want to emphasize this, that it'll be released in open house and spreadsheets. The test data will be. You won't see the pretty graphs and charts until later on. I believe we're working with a different vendor, and David Couch and his group are working with those. So you'll see mainly when it's opened in open house, it'll be in the form of spreadsheets when it comes to our test data from 23 and 24. Also, too, some things that's on the horizon that you need to know about. We've talked a lot about doing some SEEK training at different co-ops. We're possibly looking at 4 co-ops to begin. We haven't selected those. We've just now in that planning phase for that SEEK training. Again, that's going to be SEEK training for districts to give an overview. But one of the things we're talking about is to get input from each of those co-ops as we move forward to say, what exactly does this group want to learn more about with SEEK? For example, you may be at WKEC and you want to learn more about property value and how that impacts SEEK. Or you may be, how does ADA, how does that impact SEEK? So our plan right now is to give an overview of SEEK at some of these trainings at co-ops, but then too, try to be more specific with the needs of each district through some surveys. Also, too, we're working with a different vendor. I've been talking a little bit and in some meetings where we're looking at adding some updates, if you will, to the SEEK software that we use here. And one of the things that we'd like to do is add a folder, or maybe it'd be best called a sandbox, where your numbers are populated automatically, and we give you the opportunity to maybe change, let's say attendance. If it increases X amount, this is the impact that it makes on your SEEK. Or if your property values increase this amount, what impact does that have on your SEEK? So again, to give you an opportunity to say, okay, what exactly do changing numbers do for your SEEK allocation? So again, some things that we're discussing. Again, these are preliminary phases, but something that you may see on the horizon. But again, keep that in mind about having our October 3rd, when that's our test data for 23-24 is released, so that you know that, again, that's primarily in the form of spreadsheets. Of course, the normal August 2nd, you'll get the student data too, but thank you to Dr. Stafford for providing that timeline, and you can always go back to the Superintendent Webcast to see those. And also too, keep in mind about look forward to having some SEEK conversations with districts through our group here and moving forward with that. The last thing I'll say before we look at any questions and answers moving forward is it is very important that you share the information that we gave you about the prototypes. And keep in mind, there's a lot of great aspects in that. And some may fit better with other aspects, and then how it goes together. We want your input. Share it with your staff members. We're going to get out to advisory councils and make sure that they see what those prototypes look like. We want an accountability system that you, when I say you, not only superintendents, but your teachers, your staff members that you believe in and that you think will make an impact on instruction, and again, reflect the individuality of your district. So we're really looking forward to reaching that moonshot, hopefully by summer of 2026. So again, very exciting work. Thank you to Dr. Stafford and also to Ms. Sims, Rhonda Sims and their division for all the hard work, and especially to the Kentucky United We Learn Council. There's been countless hours and time that's been put into getting to this point. Again, at one point we were looking at 4 prototypes. It was narrowed down to 2 with some key aspects. And there may be something that we overlooked that you think that needs to be a part of it. please add that into the survey. We're looking forward to that feedback. Associate Commissioner, again, were there any questions that came up in the chat?
We don't have any questions at this time. I think we're ready for important dates.
Okay.
Next
Look at
slide.
it. Next slide, please. So some of the things to look at as we move forward, the Kentucky United we learn is convening on July 29th. So the more input that we can get by July 29th, the better. That way we can take it to the council and they can have all the input possible. We do have some legislators that'll be attending that. I think we have at least 2, if not more. I think we're up to 4 legislators that are looking at attending, and also other people that are attending the convening. So it's important to have your feedback, especially let's say a week before July 29th, so we can take it in to those people. Also, keep in mind there is a deadline to have your proficient distinguished scores on the school and district websites. We discussed this at length. Again, this is part of the legislative session that we have to post those scores to your district websites. And again, this is for the 2022-2023 data to have those proficient distinguished scores on your school and district websites. The Kentucky Board of Education will be meeting on August 7th and 8th, and this will be my first Kentucky Board of Education meeting. We'll be talking about strategic planning and other items as we move forward. So very exciting work for me personally as the new commissioner. Then, of course, our next Superintendent's Webcast will be August 14th. And again, looking forward to having, we had a great number since we're in July. We have well over 100 here today. Very thankful for that. But again, we want to use the Superintendent Webcast as an opportunity for you to give input on various topics. So again, thank you so much for watching and we appreciate it. And Jennifer, is there any other information that we need to share?
Nope, we are done. I will send out an email to you all shortly with the information about the survey and about the prototypes. And there's a link to a video in there as well, along with the deadline, I believe, the 19th. We're trying to get all of the feedback reported back in. So keep an eye on your inbox.
All right, anything else from the group? If not, as the superintendent, I always said this, but also now as commissioner, I want to say thank you for being all in.